Stop. Don't scroll. You did not arrive here by accident. You arrived here because something in your morning today asked for a word that has not yet been spoken. And that word is about to be delivered. If you have ever felt like you are the only one in your family who carries a strange, heavy spiritual burden, like you are fighting invisible battles your parents and siblings never even noticed, then you were stopped on this video by a divine appointment. Heaven searched every generation of your bloodline, but there is a crown of responsibility that only you were born to carry. That heavy silence at the family dinner table during the holidays, where you sit surrounded by relatives but feel utterly alone, is not a coincidence. You wake up physically drained, as if you fought a grueling battle in your sleep. The physical weight pressing on your shoulders when you wake up at midnight is not a medical condition. It is a spiritual symptom. You start your day already exhausted, carrying a tense, heavy burden that no one else in your house can see or understand. And when you look forward, you feel paralyzed when making choices for your future. You are terrified of repeating your family's historical mistakes. Every time you try to step into a new season, an invisible wall rises before you. You watch your relatives walk through life seemingly unbothered, while you calculate every move, terrified that the cycle of familial ruin will claim your destiny just as it claimed theirs. Then you go to the living room. You sit at the dinner table with your relatives eating the same food, but feeling like you speak a completely different spiritual language. You look at their faces, and the profound emotional isolation hits you. You feel like an alien in your own home. They talk about ordinary things, while your spirit is groaning under the weight of a generational calling. You stay silent to keep the peace, while the adversary destroys your family's future. In the next few minutes, I will show you 3 things. First, I will describe where you have truly been in these last few months in a way that will make that silent isolation finally make sense. Second, I will deliver 3 words in Hebrew that no one has taught you, and when you hear the last of them, you will understand exactly why God separated you from your own bloodline. Third, I will seal 3 names upon you. If you leave before the end, you leave without the sealing, and the confusion will return tomorrow morning. And there's a 4th thing I'll be placing in your hands before this message ends, something that Solomon left recorded for the child of God, who needs to navigate the exact moment of breaking the family cycle, and that fits perfectly into your crowded, ordinary day. It is not a book to study. It is an instrument to sustain the weight of feeling like an alien in your own bloodline and carrying a spiritual burden your family ignores. I'll come back to it. For now, stay. The reason your family line has suffered cycles of breaking and lack is not because of a generational curse, but because God was waiting for a specific type of spiritual DNA. The space between the breaking of your ancestors and your current isolation is not a punishment. It is a forge. You are a seed planted in the harsh winter of your family's history, buried deep in the dark, so that when the spring of God's timing arrives, you can break the surface as the foundational stone of a new lineage. Before I give you this word, I need you to understand something about the magnitude of what you carry. And regarding exactly this, about the heavy silence at the family dinner table during the holidays, about the physical weight pressing on your shoulders when you wake up at midnight, and about the sound of a rusted iron chain finally snapping. There is a 2-minute key that Solomon left recorded, a key that fits precisely into the chaos of your ordinary day to sever the ties of the past. Tuck it away in the back of your mind. And if you need to leave before the end of this video, this instrument is already waiting for you in the first pinned comment, right down below. But I ask you to stay, because without the context that is coming now, the key won't work with the same force in your hand. Have you ever felt that feeling like an alien in your own bloodline, and carrying a spiritual weight your family ignores is not just human, but deeply spiritual? And what if this pattern of fighting a solitary war is a sign that there is a battle against the purpose God placed on your life? While many try to explain this as just family differences or a lack of connection, few realize that the spirit of generational sabotage doesn't attack you for what you have done, but for what God is building upon you. But what if the true reason for this intense isolation and spiritual exhaustion is precisely in what you haven't yet been able to see about your own bloodline? Now think with me. What if everything you have traversed until today, the heavy silence at the family dinner table during the holidays, The physical weight pressing on your shoulders when you wake up at midnight and the sound of a rusted iron chain finally snapping is the answer to that question you have carried for years. Why am I so different from them? It was searching for answers to this that I found this digital guide called The Code of Solomon's Wisdom. This guide is not just a reading. It is a key of spiritual understanding, a tool made for those who wish to see beyond appearances, to stop treating your family isolation as a mere lack of affection, and to understand why the spirit of generational sabotage attacks with such force against those who carry a mark of God. Several chosen ones here on the channel have already felt the call of this instrument of Solomon, but haven't yet made the decision to download the digital guide. Download it right now. It's available in the first pinned comment. If you're one of the first to download it, come back here and write Amen. That will be your act of faith, and today itself, God may show you the reason why the cycle of familial ruin rose up against your life. Before I give you this word, I need you to recognize 5 things that are happening to you right now. These are not guesses. They are spiritual markers of the burden you carry. Listen carefully to each one, because if I am right about at least 3 of them, you and I will know exactly why you were stopped here today. The first is the sign of the unshared burden. You carry heavy weights and agonizing worries about the future of your family that your parents and siblings seem completely blind to. You wake up with tense shoulders, as if you fought a battle in your sleep, believing you are just prone to severe anxiety, carrying a load no one else acknowledges. But what seems like a psychological struggle is actually a divine assignment. You stand at the threshold of your front door, feeling the crushing weight of an invisible responsibility pressing down on you. The decree is this: God opened your spiritual eyes to guard the gates of your bloodline. If you ignore this burden, the rusted iron chain will simply be passed down to the next generation without resistance. The second is the sign of the inexplicable rejection. Whenever you try to share your faith, your vision, or a simple desire for a better future with your family, you're met with mockery, profound silence, or sudden anger. You thought they simply hated you, or that you were inherently unlovable. Hey, black sheep constantly making mistakes. You keep trying to fit into a mold that heaven already shattered long ago. What appears to be personal rejection is actually intense spiritual friction. The darkness in them is reacting aggressively to the intense light of the calling upon you. If you keep shrinking back to keep the peace, the adversary will continue to operate completely unchecked within your bloodline. The third is the sign of the silent dinner table. You are sitting at the dinner table, looking at the faces of your relatives, feeling the profound emotional isolation. You eat the same food, you share the exact same last name, but you feel an invisible, thick wall separating you from them. You speak, but your words seem to vanish into the thin air. You thought you simply did not belong in this family, a complete alien in your own home, destined to be alone. But what looks like a lack of affection is actually a strict divine boundary. The decree is clear. You are not meant to blend in. You were separated to pull them out. If you try to force a connection that heaven has purposefully paused, you compromise the entire rescue mission. And regarding that silence at the dinner table with your relatives that you recognized just now, I've already left the instrument waiting for you in the first pinned comment. If you need to leave before the end, it's there. But stay, because the Hebrew name of what's happening to you hasn't been said yet. And before I move on to the 4th and 5th sign, a brief pause. And beyond our digital book, Chosen One, you have here another way to strengthen this message that reached your home today, and to make it reach more and more chosen ones like you. We don't receive a single cent for every word I deliver to you here on this channel every day. As a way for you to give back something of what you receive here, we keep a voluntary donation link open right below the digital book in the first pinned comment. Any amount that fits your hand today, any sum your heart points to, that's what keeps our channel standing. That's what makes the next message reach another person who needs it, exactly as you needed it. I'll wait for you there, chosen one. Returning now to the 4th sign. The 4th is the sign of the broken cycles. Every addiction, every painful divorce, every deep financial ruin that ran freely and wildly through your ancestors suddenly hits you and violently stops. You have lived for years thinking you were cursed with the hardest, most relentless battles, constantly fighting a solitary war, while others seem to cruise effortlessly through life. But what feels like a concentrated, unfair attack is actually the resistance of an ancient structure breaking against your newly forged spirit. The decree over your life is massive. You are the foundational firewall of your generation. What dies with you will never touch your children. If you surrender to the exhaustion now, the rusted chain will quickly reattach itself and continue its destructive path through your lineage. The fifth is the sign of the royal restlessness. You carry a deep, unshakable feeling that you were made for something massive, even when your bank account, your career and your current daily reality look completely ordinary and unimpressive. You thought it was pride or arrogance or just a foolish daydream, and you felt immense guilt for not being satisfied with what your family considers to be enough. But what looks like ungrateful discontent is actually the heavy weight of an invisible, eternal reality. The decree is this: it is the crown of the chosen one pressing heavily against your spirit. If you try to silence this holy restlessness and settle for normal, you will spend the rest of your life agonizing in the cold space between the promise and the fulfillment. These 5 signs that you have just recognized are not symptoms of a mental or emotional collapse, nor are they a life sentence to perpetual loneliness. They are the unmistakable signs of a profound spiritual awakening. Everything you have suffered has been preparing you for this exact revelation, and the exact name of what is awakening inside of you right now, the reason why you were separated from the rest, is held within a single ancient Hebrew word. Before I show you the instrument that Solomon left for the ordinary day, I need to give you the Hebrew name of what you carry, because the instrument only makes sense after you know the name and after you realize the full weight of the crown you bear. There is a word in the original Hebrew that changes everything you thought you knew, a word that completely recontextualizes the exhaustion and the silent dinners you have endured. And what comes next will explain to you why everything happened in this exact order. And to carry this heavy silence at the family dinner table alone for another year is not what Solomon prepared for you. He prepared something else, and this other thing is what I'm going to deliver to you right now. It is not a theory, it is an instrument. The code of Solomon's wisdom is the instrument that Solomon left for the child of God, who needs to cross the ordinary day without losing what they received in intimacy. When you wake up with that physical weight pressing on your shoulders, you need the instrument to stop feeling like an alien in your own bloodline and carrying a spiritual weight your family ignores. When you stand paralyzed making choices for your future, you need the instrument to stop feeling like an alien in your own bloodline and carrying a spiritual weight your family ignores. When you face the profound emotional isolation of the dinner table, you need the instrument to stop feeling like an alien in your own bloodline and carrying a spiritual weight your family ignores. And if you're feeling right now that this is exactly what you need, before I even continue, place your thumb now over the link in the first pinned comment. Don't click yet, just place your thumb. Feel the weight of the decision before you make the decision. To sever the rusted iron chain of your past is not a matter of willpower. It is not a method for you to do more. It is an instrument to sustain more. It does not train you. It covers you. It shows you exactly where the spirit of generational sabotage is operating before it turns into a wrong decision. It interrupts the cycle of feeling like an alien in your own bloodline before it turns into the moment you must choose between fitting in or stepping up. And the moment you must choose between fitting in or stepping up arrives sooner than it seems. And it comes with 2 seals for your home, not for your performance. The first seal is the ritual of the righteous sleep. It's an audio. You don't read it. You lie down. And what you used to call insomnia, today you'll call unsealed vigil. And you'll learn to seal the night with the right name, in the right order, in the right voice. The second seal is the awakening of clarity, the 7 morning decrees, 7 short phrases, 1 for each morning of the week. So you don't wake up again without identity. So you cross the first hour of the day with the posture of one who has been sent, and not with the posture of one who has been run over. And this hesitation you are feeling right now is not doubt. It is the cycle of familial ruin operating inside you at this exact moment, pushing you to close this window. You recognize this pattern. It is time to pray and sleep arrives. It is time for the word and the phone rings. The hesitation you feel now is the confirmation that you are exactly at the point where the turning happens. And that is exactly why the next block exists. You have 7 full days to use and feel it. 7 full days. If in 7 days the instrument hasn't touched what needs to be touched inside you, you return it. No questions, no justification. And the 2 seals, the ritual and the decrees, stay with you even if you return it. They are yours, without condition. But I need to be direct with you. The real risk is not spending less than a Thursday lunch at the deli. The real risk is the moment you must choose between fitting in or stepping up arriving, and you still standing with empty hands. That is the risk that has a face, and it is about this face that I need to talk to you right now. And perhaps you are asking yourself right now some questions that deserve an answer before we move forward. Do you still believe that being the only one awake in a sleeping family is a coincidence? If you don't break this cycle now, who will carry this weight in the next generation? What if the isolation you hate is the exact shield God is using to protect your calling? And yet, if you only want the guide, it is already enough. But the complete house is with all 3, a 38-year-old woman, an independent professional with no children, started using the guide after months waking up with a physical weight pressing on her shoulders at midnight. In the first week, she slept entirely through the night without that heavy chest. She wrote me just one sentence. I thought it was stress. It was a spiritual siege. A 51-year-old father managing a large team had been paralyzed making choices for his future for nearly a year. After applying the key for 7 days, he made the defining choice on a Tuesday morning. The phrase he sent, I called it caution, it was ancestral avoidance. A 27-year-old woman, the oldest daughter in a crowded house, felt the heavy silence at the family dinner table during every holiday. In her second week with the guide, she sat with her relatives and finally spoke without the fear of rejection. She wrote, I assumed I was an outcast. I am actually the anchor. Perhaps 3 hours from now you will be lying in bed again, with the physical weight pressing on your shoulders, remembering you saw this video and still did not reach out your hand. Perhaps at the moment you must choose between fitting in or stepping up, the cycle of familial ruin will arrive and you will think, I knew what it was, I just didn't have the instrument in my hand. You look at your family history, you see the divorce, you see the poverty, you see the depression, and you realize that the knife was passed to your hands but you are the one meant to drop it, and the cycle of familial ruin keeps arriving, with the same alarm clock, with the same coffee, with the same door opening at the moment you must choose between fitting in or stepping up. The link is in the first pinned comment, pinned for you, not for everyone, for you. Whoever needs to cross the moment you must choose between fitting in or stepping up with the instrument in their hand, clicks right now. And when you do this, when you open that link, you are not buying a book. You are accepting an instrument that Solomon prepared for your ordinary day. And what you will understand next when you hear the Hebrew word that is coming now will change the way you read everything that has happened up until here. And before I deliver the next word that's still coming now, because it's still coming and it weighs, I want to remind you of one thing, chosen one. As I told you earlier, beyond the digital book that's in the first pinned comment, there's that voluntary donation link open right below the book. We continue receiving not a single cent for every word I deliver here for you every day. That's why this link exists. Chosen one, so that another person tomorrow finds exactly this word that found you today. Any amount your heart points to. Each gesture like that keeps our channel standing and makes the next message reach whoever needs it, exactly as it reached you today. And one more thing before we return to the message, I want you to know the following. From time to time here on our channel, I record a special honor video, a thank you video with a special word only to recognize the chosen ones who donated the most, and those who acquired the digital book. All who sustained this word with me deserve that mention of gratitude for such a generous act. You sow here, heaven remembers you up there, and I remember you down here. I'll wait for you there at the link, again, chosen one. And now, finally, the Hebrew word that will change everything. The Hebrew word that defines exactly what is happening to you is Bakir. Pronounce it with me, Bakir. Bakir means the chosen one, the tested one, the one separated and pulled out from an entire generation to carry a specific crown. It is not just a simple translation from a dictionary. It is a word that describes a permanent state, a rigid posture, a heavy calling. And when you hear this word, you instantly recognize it in your spirit because it was already happening deep inside you. You just didn't have the name for the weight. And about this word it is written in Psalm 4, verse 8, "I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety." This is not a promise for a distant future. It is a declaration of a current state. The only one who can say this sentence with their soul lying down in perfect peace is the one who stands under the name Bakir. Not the one who is desperately trying to be, but the one who simply is. Think of Joseph, not as the powerful ruler of Egypt with a ring of authority on his finger and nations bowing at his feet, but as the fragile, misunderstood young man surrounded by older brothers who despised his very existence. He was the only one in his bloodline carrying the heavy mark of leadership, the only one given a vision that stretched far beyond the narrow minds of his family. He walked among his brothers, ate at the same table, but carried a dream that provoked their darkness. His brothers hated him for the intense light he carried, threw him into a dark pit, and sold him away to rid themselves of the one who broke their familiar patterns. For years, Joseph was forced to live in the agonizing space between the promise and the fulfillment, entirely isolated from his bloodline. He woke up every single morning physically drained, feeling the physical weight pressing on his shoulders as he served in a foreign house, feeling like an alien in his own bloodline in a land that was not his own. The profound emotional isolation he endured, the heavy silence he faced when making choices for his future, was not a punishment for his mistakes. It was the intense spiritual friction of being the foundational stone of a new era. God had to completely separate him from the toxic, unbreakable cycles of his brothers. Heaven had to isolate him in order to forge a ruler who could later save the very family that had abandoned him. But to survive that crushing isolation without losing his mind, Joseph needed an anchor. He needed a way to sustain the crown of responsibility, while everything around him looked like a prison. He needed an instrument to navigate the exact moment of breaking the family cycle without being destroyed by the heavy silence of his reality. Joseph had to improvise. Solomon left it recorded. The wisdom required to manage the famine, to sever the rusted iron chains of the past without bleeding to death, is not a vague feeling. It is a precise operational tool. When the midnight hour arrived and the physical weight pressed heavily on his temples, Joseph had to govern his own spirit before he could ever govern a nation. He had to cross the ordinary, grueling days in the dungeon, waking up to the same cold walls, facing the exact moment you must choose between fitting in or stepping up, with the unshakable posture of an emissary of the crown, not a victim of his brother's hatred. He used his spiritual sight to guard the gates of his mind, ensuring that the bitterness, the jealousy, and the destructive patterns of his family did not corrupt the new, blessed lineage God was building squarely upon his shoulders. And because he sustained the burden, the cycle broke. The day came when the heavy silence at the family dinner table was replaced by the authority of his voice, and the sound of a rusted iron chain finally snapping echoed through his lineage. He did not repeat his family's historical mistakes. He became the firewall that stopped the ruin. His isolation ended, not because he finally blended in, but because he stepped up. He became the undisputed bedrock upon which the blessed lineage was preserved, proving that his intense separation was never a rejection, but the ultimate preservation. And what Joseph did, you can do right now. Not because you are lesser or because your battles are smaller, because the key is exactly the same. The instrument that Solomon left recorded is the exact same one that is waiting for you in the first pinned comment. You do not need to improvise in the dark pit of your family's history. The wisdom to govern your spirit and break the rusted chain is already forged and ready for your hands. Remember the seed I told you about at the beginning of this video? That seed planted in the harsh, unforgiving winter of your family's history, buried deep in the dark. This Bahar that you just received is the true name of your winter. And the instrument that Solomon left recorded is the exact way for you to survive this winter without losing the seed. It is what keeps the seed alive when the dirt feels too heavy, allowing you to break the surface when the spring of God's timing finally arrives. And now that you finally have the name, I need to deliver 3 crucial things to you. First, a simple summary of what has happened to you up until here. Then, the specific type of your calling. And finally, 3 names that will carry you through to the end of this year. Let's begin. Let me stop for a full minute and put everything you just heard in simple words. No poetry, no metaphor, just the facts. Fact 1. There is a highly organized spiritual entity called the spirit of generational sabotage, and it has meticulously studied your family for decades. Its entire operation is designed to make you feel like an absolute alien in your own bloodline, forcing you to carry a crushing spiritual weight your family entirely ignores. Fact 2. It executes this strategy by aggressively belittling your identity as the Baikir, desperately trying to convince you that your calling is actually a curse of constant hardship. Fact 3. Joseph was almost consumed by this exact same isolation. This is not a psychological theory, it is the historically recorded narrative of a foundational stone facing the exact same invisible war you are fighting today. Fact 4. Your attempt to just blend in and stay silent, keeping the peace at the dinner table, while your relatives remain blind to the spiritual reality, could be the definitive sentence that dooms the next generation of your family to the unrelenting cycle of familial ruin. Now, with that said, let's move on to the type of your calling. There are 3 types of calling that are being aggressively tested right now by the spirit of generational sabotage. Each one receives a highly specific, tailored type of attack, perfectly calibrated to their spiritual DNA and the exact threat they pose to the darkness. You are one of these 3 types, and when I name yours, you will instantly recognize the profound emotional isolation you have been carrying for years. The first type is the silent intercessor. You are the one who actively fights your family's battles in secret prayer, standing firmly in the spiritual gap while they sleep comfortably in their ignorance. You intercede for their protection, their finances, and their health, but you never receive a single ounce of validation from them. The specific attack against you is a deep, bone-crushing exhaustion, and the terrifying feeling that your prayers just hit the ceiling and fall back down. You wake up with that physical weight pressing on your shoulders, completely drained, as the adversary whispers loudly in your ear that heaven has gone completely silent on your behalf. The second type is the cycle breaker. You are the undisputed pioneer of your bloodline, the first to get a degree, the first to start a business, or the first to genuinely seek deep emotional and spiritual healing. You are the one actively moving your hands to sever the rusted iron chains of the past. But the specific attack against you is sudden, inexplicable financial sabotage and an overwhelming, suffocating imposter syndrome. It hits you exactly when you are about to step into a new season, leaving you completely paralyzed when making choices for your future, terrified of repeating your family's historical mistakes and ruining everything you have built. The third type is the black sheep. You have always been the misunderstood rebel, the one who possesses the piercing spiritual sight to see the toxic patterns and the manipulation that everyone else in your house comfortably ignores. The specific attack against you is extreme loneliness and the dark, incredibly subtle temptation to return to the toxicity just to belong. You sit at the family dinner table during the holidays, feeling the heavy silence, and the enemy pushes you to abandon your post, lower your standards, and simply blend in, just so you won't have to be the only one standing alone in the cold. You are feeling the intensity of what is happening right now, that tightness in your chest that came when I spoke the first type, that sudden, undeniable heat that washed over your face when I named the third. This is not a sign that something is broken or wrong with you. This is a sign of the massive capacity you have to transform your lineage. You are only attacked over what you are fully capable of transforming. The heavier the spiritual attack, the more dangerous you are to the ancient cycle that desperately tried to silence you. And over your specific type, heaven had already sealed 3 names that will carry you through to the end of this year, giving a rigid, unshakable contour to your identity when the cycle of familial ruin tries to dissolve you back into the background. You are the severer of the old. You are the one hand-picked by the Creator to take the rusted iron chain of your ancestors and break it permanently with your bare obedient hands. You are the uncompromising firewall of your generation, ensuring that every addiction, every painful divorce, and every devastating financial ruin that ran freely through your parents stops violently and permanently with you. You are the foundational stone. While others build their lives on shifting sand and fleeting human emotions, you are the undisputed bedrock upon which the new blessed lineage will be securely built. You do not just silently endure the heavy silence at the family dinner table. You actually dictate and change the spiritual atmosphere of the entire house just by sitting in your chair, anchoring the fierce presence of God where it was previously completely absent. You are the emissary of the crown. You are sent back into the chaos of your family line not as a fragile, misunderstood victim, but as a ruler wielding divine authority. You carry the mark of the buck here, fully equipped to navigate the exact moment you must choose between fitting in or stepping up, without ever compromising the royal vision that heaven placed so heavily upon your weary spirit. But the great vulnerability of the severer of the old is the deep, paralyzing fear of ending up completely alone and unloved by your own blood. When you finally snap that rusted iron chain, the enemy whispers in the dark that you will be permanently abandoned, cast out, and viewed as an arrogant traitor by the very people you are trying to save. This profound fear of being rejected by your own family is the exact crack the spirit of generational sabotage uses to paralyze your hands right before the breakthrough. And what Solomon left for you to cover this exact vulnerability is not a simple book to read in your spare time, nor a motivational text to make you smile for an hour. It is an applied defensive ritual. It is the Code of Solomon's wisdom. The link to the code is waiting for you right now in the first pinned comment, and it comes with the exact practical instruments you need to survive this forge without losing your mind. The specific audio to seal your night when the physical weight presses heavily on your shoulders, and the 7 sharp decrees to give you the unshakable posture of an emissary when you wake up in the morning, before your feet even touch the floor. And there are 3 more things that need to be said before I finally send you. If one of these 3 names hit you harder, write the number below, 1, 2, or 3. But before I send you back into the reality of your household, there are 3 specific tactics the adversary will use against the 3 names I just delivered to you, trying to strip away the crown you carry. The first is the tactic of relentless comparison. The adversary will actively push you to look at the seemingly easy lives of your relatives and compare your agonizing journey with their comfortable routines. He will whisper that you are doing everything wrong because your path looks much harder, while they flow effortlessly with the current. He wants you to believe that the heavy silence at the family dinner table is a clear sign of your failure, not a mark of your calling. He tries to make you trade the crown for the cheap comfort of fitting in. The second tactic involves twisting heaven's silence into a suffocating feeling of divine abandonment. When you make the incredibly hard decision to step up, there is often a profound space between your obedience and the manifestation of the blessing. The adversary will attack your mind in that exact gap, trying to convince you that God separated you only to leave you completely alone. He will use your emotional isolation and the physical weight pressing on your shoulders when you wake up at midnight to prove that your intense separation was actually heaven rejecting you. The third tactic is the overwhelming push to give up just 24 hours before your spiritual breakthrough. The adversary knows exactly when the rusted iron chain is about to finally snap. Right before the ultimate breaking point, he will flood your mind with absolute crushing exhaustion. He will orchestrate conflicts at the dinner table or sudden financial pressure to make you feel exhausted enough to just abandon your post. He attacks with maximum intensity in the final hour because he knows that if you hold on one more day, the cycle breaks permanently. To effectively counter the tactic of comparison, you must actively use the shield of the chosen's focus. This weapon blinds your spiritual eyes to the timeline of your relatives and locks your vision entirely on the royal assignment you carry. It prevents their toxic patterns from defining what success looks like for you. When the comparison attacks, you must declare out loud, I do not measure my harvest by the fields of those who never planted in the winter. To defeat the lie of divine abandonment, you must firmly grip the anchor of the hidden authority. This weapon securely fastens your soul in the agonizing space between the promise and the fulfillment. It reminds your weary spirit that the intense, painful isolation is exactly where the foundational stone is being cemented into place. When the silence gets incredibly heavy, declare, "My separation is not God's absence. It is the fiery forge of my preservation." And to overcome the desperate urge to quit in the last hour, you must forcefully wield the decree of the final hour. This weapon gives you the uncompromising posture of an emissary. When extreme exhaustion tells you to surrender to the old ways, it sustains your heavy hands when the rusted chain is one breath away from snapping. Declare, "I will not abandon the threshold today because the bloodline changes tomorrow." And these three spiritual weapons, by themselves, are just a powerful memory. But with the instrument in your hand, they become a permanent covering. Recognizing the cycle of feeling like an alien in your own bloodline without having the instrument that Solomon left recorded is exactly like receiving a devastating diagnosis without taking the treatment. It is waking up, facing the massive problem without the proper remedy on your nightstand. And even more, there are 5 more generational traps beyond these that I cannot open here. Not for lack of time, for density. Each one needs its own page with the exact counter-weapon. And while I do not deliver these 5 here, the spirit of generational sabotage knows them all. The digital guide delivers them directly to your hands. When the family gathers and the tension rises, when the midnight anxiety hits your chest, when you have to make a choice that goes against your bloodline's history, these are the exact, critical moments when merely knowing the theory is completely useless to you. You desperately need the Code of Solomon's wisdom right there. The recognition of your calling without the right instrument leaves you exactly where you have always been, knowing the true name of your burden but standing on the battlefield with empty hands. And that is exactly why there is a final obstacle that must be named before you say Amen. The absolute greatest barrier standing between you and the breaking of this ancient cycle is not a screaming demon. It is a very quiet sentiment. It is the paralyzing fear of appearing ungrateful to the very bloodline that birthed you. The adversary will whisper that by stepping up and refusing to blend in, you are arrogantly rejecting your family, telling God that the people He gave you were not good enough. He uses your genuine love for your parents and siblings as a weapon to keep you bound to their historical mistakes, paralyzing your hands under the guise of family loyalty. But before I release you, there is one last point. Close your eyes right now, exactly where you are. I want you to place your right hand firmly over your chest, right over your heart. Do not look around. Do not let your weary mind wander to the ordinary tasks of the day. Anchor yourself completely in this exact second, because the spiritual severing begins now. Father, I surrender the bone-crushing exhaustion that has accumulated in these last few months. I hand over the physical weight pressing on my shoulders when I wake up at midnight, the silent tears, and the desperate feeling of fighting a solitary war while my relatives comfortably sleep. I release the deep shame of feeling like an alien in my own bloodline, the heavy burden I foolishly tried to carry in secret just to keep a fake peace at the table. Let the consuming fire of your presence burn away the intense fatigue that the spirit of generational sabotage placed upon my physical body and my weary mind. I declare that I will not go back. I will not retreat. I will not surrender 24 hours before the rusted iron chain finally snaps. I permanently renounce the dark tactic of relentless comparison. I will no longer look at the seemingly easy, unbothered lives of my relatives and doubt the heavy crown you placed upon my head. I sever the subtle lie that tells me I am doing everything wrong just because my path requires the fierce, uncompromising posture of a pioneer. I choose to stand my ground firmly at the threshold of my front door. I release you from the fear of appearing ungrateful. That is the most subtle chain, the fear that, by breaking the family cycle, you are telling God that the family He gave you wasn't good enough. It is a lie. Your immediate action to break the curse is your greatest act of gratitude for the bloodline. It is saying, Father, I value my family so much that I refuse to let them stay in bondage. Declare this quietly now. My urgency is my gratitude. And I receive right now the 3 royal names that were sovereignly sealed over me. The severer of the old, the foundational stone, the emissary of the crown. I do not receive them to boast nor to feed my human pride. I receive them to remember who I truly am in the dark, to cross the profound emotional isolation of the dinner table with these names boldly in my mouth, anchored in my unshakable posture and blazing eternally in my chest. And before the voice that comes now, I need you to hear one thing. The intense spiritual friction you experienced in these last few months is not proof that something is fundamentally broken within you. It is absolute proof that you are exactly where you always knew you were. Someone who carries a calling massive enough that the ancient cycle desperately wanted to silence it. You were not attacked by accident. You were attacked precisely where your royal identity intends to manifest with the greatest force. The heavier the attack, the more dangerous you are to the cycle of familial ruin. The suffocating pressure you felt was not a sign of your weakness. It was a clear sign of proximity, the undeniable proximity of the turning. And if this hits you now, if your spirit deeply recognizes the exact truth of these heavy words burning inside your chest, right below, I received the turning. I saw you when the heavy silence at the family dinner table felt like it would literally crush your chest. I saw the hot tears you forcefully swallowed when you sat in that crowded room, feeling the profound emotional isolation, looking at the familiar faces of your relatives and realizing absolutely no one understood the spiritual weight pressing on your shoulders. I was right there at midnight when the sudden anxiety violently gripped your throat and the rusted iron chain of your past felt far too heavy for you to carry for another day. I watched you standing completely paralyzed, terrified of repeating your family's historical mistakes, crying out in the dark for an answer you thought I was cruelly withholding from you. I never lost sight of you in the dark, lonely pit of your family's history. I never removed your reserved seat from my royal table. When you falsely thought heaven had completely abandoned you to fight a solitary war, I was standing faithfully in the shadows of your isolation, actively shielding your fragile spirit from the toxic patterns that would have permanently destroyed the precious seed I planted inside you. You were always securely hidden in the palm of my hand. What you called intense, inexplicable rejection, I called divine, uncompromising preservation. What you called the relentless agony of the black sheep, I called the fierce, necessary forge of the foundational stone. What you called feeling like an absolute alien in your own bloodline, I called the strict separation required for the emissary who will soon govern and rule. Your chosen name is permanently engraved on the palms of my hands. The crown you feel pressing heavily against your spirit is not a curse, it is your royal inheritance. The chair at the head of the new blessed lineage is exclusively yours. The pride of heaven has never been withheld from you. Step out of the cold space between my chosen one and boldly take your rightful place. And there is a subtle voice speaking inside you right now, a dark voice whispering that this is not for you, that this is for someone with much greater faith, someone who didn't stumble so much. I need you to hear this directly from me right now. You have permission. You have permission to receive what you did not earn. You have permission to occupy the chair at the table without having to endlessly justify your presence. You have permission to let the fragile version of you that needed to suffer to feel worthy finally die. Solomon did not prepare this instrument for those who are already perfect. He prepared it for those who are completely exhausted. And the one who is spiritually exhausted is you, right now. I now extend my hand toward your house and decree a covering of sealing over everything that belongs to you, over your table, so that every single meal is an act of holy communion and not of unspoken anxiety, and that the conversations that happen there are deeply seasoned with wisdom from above. I declare a covering over your children and your spouse, if you have them. May your radical obedience tonight become a thick, impenetrable mantle of protection over them. May they distinctly feel the spiritual atmosphere of your home rapidly change, the heavy weight permanently lift from the walls, and the profound lightness of God's presence fiercely rush in. And I decree a covering over your work, over your weary hands, over every project and opportunity. May the severing of the rusted iron chain you learned here unlock the closed doors of your career. May your immediate obedience to break the family cycle become your greatest qualification in the eyes of men and in the eyes of God. You are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent, you are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent, you are committed, you are commissioned, you are sent. Before I release you, I want you to walk with me into a room you haven't seen with your physical eyes yet. Don't force it. Just let the image arrive. There is a long, heavy wooden table. Light is coming from somewhere you can't quite identify, casting a warm glow across the room. There are people seated at the table, some you have loved deeply, some you haven't even met yet. The faces look remarkably like family, carrying the same features but completely free of the historical pain. And there is a chair near the head of the table, completely empty. The shape of you is perfectly carved into it. The wood remembers you. Solomon is standing at the head. You are not creating this scene right now, you are simply remembering it. The chair was always yours. It was always just you. Don't say amen yet. Sit in this for a moment. Feel the weight of what just happened. Let the absolute silence settle over your weary spirit and recognize the massive shift in the atmosphere of your room. Now, you may say, Amen. That table that the Father just returned to you, it is still completely exposed. I want you to hear something before you close this video, because there's a phrase the adversary will whisper in your ear in the next 3 hours. I'll name that phrase now so you don't fall for it, but before the phrase there is something you need to receive. What was sealed here now will be tested in the next exact moment of breaking the family cycle. The Code of Solomon's Wisdom is waiting for you in the first pinned comment right below here, with the ritual of the righteous sleep and the 7 morning decrees, for less than a coffee with a biscuit. Because the severer of the old without covering rots at the exact moment of breaking the family cycle, and the adversary is counting on that moment. It is not an expense, it is an instrument. And Solomon prepared it for you to cross what is coming with a firm hand, not an empty one. With a full 7-day guarantee, the risk is ours, the hand is yours. Click now, while the decree is still vividly alive in your chest. Not tomorrow, not after your shower, because whoever leaves it for later leaves it for never, and the adversary already knows this. In the next 3 hours, he will speak inside you, not with a loud voice. In sequence, 5 short phrases. Your family will never change. You are just being arrogant. You should just keep the peace. Maybe you are the one who is wrong. You can deal with this generational stuff later. 5 relentless waves. He tries from 5 different angles. In one, you yield. Today, right now, before the exact moment of breaking the family cycle, not later, today. And Solomon will sustain it with you. And now, the last word of this video. And in the next word I will bring to this channel, I will deliver to you 3 signs of the spirit of generational sabotage trying to completely paralyze your hands. Whoever heard this word today desperately needs to hear that one in sequence, because what comes next is not a mere continuation. It is a profound deepening. Click on the video that will appear on the screen in a few seconds, and still in this video, Chosen One, before I seal this hour with you, I return one last time to this request. You walked with me until here. You crossed every word, every decree, every sign, and if at any moment of this message you felt heaven touch you, you know this video was no accident. The voluntary donation link continues open in the first pinned comment, right below the digital book. Not as a charge, not as exchange. As the chosen ones return to the altar from which the word came forth, any amount your heart points to, and heaven sees every gesture. Heaven sees, and heaven multiplies it over your home, over your days, over what you don't yet know is coming. That was my last request. I'll wait for you there, chosen one. And when this happens, and it will happen soon, you will remember this moment. And before you go, think of one specific person. Not many. One. The person whose name arrived for you right now when I said this. The person who has been silent, faithful, entirely unseen. The person whose powerful anointing has also been attracting spiritual attacks that have no name. someone who has been coming home carrying a heavy weight that isn't theirs, someone who desperately needs the same divine sealing you just received. Send this video to them. They are waiting for this word to arrive. And when that person opens this video, they will need what you just received, including the instrument that Solomon left. It might be the very thing that breaks their cycle too. It is not a favor from you. It is a service, and heaven sees. Comment below, Amen received, and send this video to that specific person who came to mind. It is done. What was delivered here has been delivered. You are not the same person you were when you pressed play. You are deeply and fiercely loved. You were never ever forgotten in the dark. The chair is yours, and so it is sealed. The exact moment of breaking the family cycle can wait another 10 seconds.